did get the sermon this morning, even if I did walk around a lot. And so that's available for you if you need it. I'm especially glad to be here tonight. Now, I'm glad you kids are up here, okay? I want you to know I almost had to wrestle your youth minister to get you up here last night. But I worked on him real hard. And I said, I want you guys up here because I start recruiting at you guys' age. I want you guys already tonight to start thinking about going to Africa or somewhere to be missionaries, all right? Now, I know that isn't too good with your parents, but that's all right. You can start thinking about it anyway. You have my permission, all right? And that's important to me. Now, I want to do about 3 different teachings tonight, all of which needs an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, but we're going to do them in about 5 or 6, 8 minutes, and then we're going to show some video in between. All right, number 1. I carry that display around for a reason. I want you to know right up front, I'll be honest with you, I don't like dragging the stupid thing around. It's a big nuisance to carry it in and out. Then stand around and wait on all you guys to leave till I can put it away and go. But I really want you to take the time. I don't care if you stay an hour afterwards and look at the display, because it's there to help inform you about other people. I have sometimes kids a hard job to do, and one that I don't always like little parts of. Because my job is to do mission education in the church here in America. And sometimes I am compelled of the Lord to make some negative statements that don't sound too good. But I don't make those negative statements because I hate people and I want to tell them where they're at. I used to, but I don't do it that way anymore. I do that because I want to see us change, or I want to see us move forward. One of the things that I have to say to the church in America is that the church all over the United States is woefully ignorant about other people in the world. And not only that, we are willfully ignorant about other people in the world. Now, ignorant's not a bad word, kids. I didn't say dumb or stupid. I said ignorant. Now, ignorant means they just don't know, okay? That means we lack knowledge. So I'm not saying anything real bad, except we don't know very much about the world like we should. Now, the reason that we're willfully ignorant, in my opinion, is we don't bother to read mission literature. See, I believe with all of my heart that every family in the church ought get no less than 10 or 12 pieces of mission literature on a regular basis. People go, oh, you got to be kidding. All they want's our money. No, that's not all we want, you see. There are other reasons for you taking mission literature. A lot of people say, why should we pick up the African? There's 4 different issues of the African. Why should I take that home with me? Well, it's so you can learn about Zaire Africa. People think that all mission mail is for is to tell you how good we missionaries are and how much money you ought to send. And so you're afraid of it, and you don't read it. All right, you'll get some of that, okay? But let the Holy Spirit talk to you about how much money and when and who to. But you need the literature anyway. All right, now I'm going to tell you kids, and you're not going to fully understand what I'm saying, but maybe the adults will hear a little bit of what I'm trying to say. You see, one of the biggest problems you kids have got, now you don't know it, and it's not your fault. It's the fault of these people back here behind you. But the truth of the matter is that you kids are so self-centered and so selfish that sometimes you stink. You know, we kind of get to the point where we just want what we want for us, and we don't care about anybody else. Yeah, well, at least you all agree with me. All right, now listen to me. I have heard your grandpas and grandmas say about their grandkids that are selfish. They've said, well, I don't like the way my grandkids are, but that's just the way kids are today, and I can't do anything about it. And that's not true. Because kids, listen, if you're ever going to get over this problem of being so self-centered in this our materialistic world's going to make you worse, not better. The only way you're going to get away from being so selfish is get interested in other people. How are you going to get interested in other people? Read the mail. See, if your parents would take this literature in their home, does your family devotion sometimes get kind of dry and dull? See, if you would use this for family devotions once in a while, this might be helpful. And you can get to learn about other people. And guess what? You know what I know about you guys? I mean, I know you're selfish, okay? But I also know that if you think a lot about other people, you'll want to do something for them. I know you guys well enough to know that if you learn about other people, you're going to want to do something for them. So mission literature needs to come regularly into your home and be used to offer your children and your grandchildren a positive alternative to self-centeredness. See, I thought about this for a long time. And I thought, well, I'll straighten my grandson out and I'll set him down and I'll have a word or two with him. What am I going to tell him? I've got a grandson that's 5 or 6 years old. He's 6, I'm going on 7. He'll look me right back in the eye and he'll say, Grandpa, you got what you want, I got what I want. I mean, this guy's tough. Now, what am I going to tell him? See, the reason you kids are selfish is because they're selfish. And they just told you their way of life. Now, the only positive alternative, adults, listen, is that honest investment of yourself in other people, and these kids need to learn that when they're 5 and 6 years old. That's why you need mission literature, okay? That's why you need things like this. The African newsletter is for your information. This is to tell you about all of the kind of things that go on over there. Now we are creating a little spiritual hook into this one. These 2 pages talk to you about the mission and how it's structured. And these 2 pages tell you all the kinds of jobs that are available in Zaire. And all this kind of work is available in a lot of mission fields. And when I'm talking about recruiting, I want you kids to know you don't always have to be a preacher or teacher officially in order to go to mission field. There's a lot of other kinds of work available. I was a preacher. I thought I was a pretty good one. But you know why they wanted me to come to Africa? Because I knew how to build church buildings. See? That's what they really wanted out of me. Now, after I got there, they liked my preaching. After I learned, I have to learn that fly in the language, so that was a little difficult. I preached my first sermon in 3 months. They understood what I said, but I didn't know what I said because I just wrote it and translated it and read it, But anyway, they understood. Now listen, the other reason then that this piece of literature needs to be in your home is not just for the kids to learn, but we recruit people in midlife who lose their jobs and want to have a career change. Have you ever sat there and said, I wonder if, well, why don't you just read this and see if, Not only that, for you golden oldies, let me tell you, you're able to live on your retirement income in other countries cheaper than you can live here in America. A lot better life. Maybe you can't work 8 hours a day every day, but maybe you can do 2 or 3 hours a day, or maybe 3 or 4 days a week, and you could live there and do a lot. We are praying that God will use this piece of literature to encourage you to get involved, even here at home or somewhere else. All right. Now, one more reason, and then we'll get to the video. And you kids are just going to have to listen on this one, because don't really have much to do with you, okay? I got to deal with the adults here a minute. Is that all right? You'll put up with me for a couple more minutes? Okay. These 2 pieces of literature here, put together maybe with this one, and several other pieces of literature, especially the information that you have from the bulletins, is some of the very best evangelistic material that you can use here in the Joppatown area. This is good literature to use with non-Christian people. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Do you have any idea what the non-Christian world's #1 question of the church is today? Has nothing to do with doctrine. Has nothing to do with the ability of your preacher. Doesn't have anything to do with the availability of your Sunday school classes, or the nurseries, or the softball league, or the basketball team, or the ladies volleyball program. They don't care about all that. The #1 thing that the non-Christian world is asking us is, are you doing anything to help people who are hurting? When I'm in a truck stop or a restaurant and I'm talking to people and they find out what I do, they always come back with, are you doing anything to help the homeless and the unemployed? Now, What am I saying to you? I am saying that if the number one question of the non-Christian world to the church is what are you doing to help people that are hurting, we ought to have some answers. Do you remember the scripture that says, be ready to give answer for the faith that is within you? What is there in your life and your home that would cause me as a non-Christian to even ask you about your faith? It isn't the pictures of Jesus on your wall, because everybody has those. It isn't the crosses that we wear for jewelry, because everybody's wearing that. It's not the family Bible laying on the table. It's not even the Joppatown Christian newsletter laying on your table. Everybody gets that kind of stuff. But I suggest to you that if your house, your bathroom, your coffee table was just slightly cluttered with this, when non-Christian people came to your home and you went into the kitchen to fix the tea and the crumpets or whatever it is that you have out here, and you come back out, they're going to ask you what that's all about. There is nobody, nominal or non-Christian, who can walk into your home and see that and give them a little time to read it. But what they're going to ask you about this when you come back with a coffee. And you see what I'm saying to you? This is a door opener. How many non-Christian people have you had in your life that you've wanted to talk to the church about, but it don't go anywhere? This will get you an invitation. They're going to ask you to talk to to them about the church and what the church does. Gang, seriously, I don't know how many of you are reproducing and using the Bolus's method, but you ought to be. And every one of you ought to be taking 8, 10, 12 pieces of mission literature on a regular basis. See, we only send this one out twice a year, so a regular basis doesn't just wear you out. If you want our literature, you're welcome to take what's available on the table. And if you'll sign up and put your name and address on the clipboard in such a way that my wife can tell who you are, well, then we'll put you on our mailing list as well. Does it make sense to you? Mission literature isn't just for you to help me, but it's for us to help you offer a positive alternative to the society we're living in. And it's a good door opener with non-Christian people, especially if you've got literature that shows a lot of stuff. Now, this particular one don't. But if you got somebody that's interested in aviation, then you find an airplane picture in your mission mail, leave it open there when he's coming over. Or if you got somebody that's into construction, then you show the construction of the church building and stuff, you see. All of that's available to you in mission literature. Okay, so much for that lecture. Now I want to show you 20 minutes of it. The family that I'm going to show you has been in Zaire Africa for 40 years. And you're just going to see an overview of their work. It's not going to be in detail, but it's going to intrigue you a little bit about what's going on over there. And if you've got questions, you've got to mark them down. Because this video will move out from under you, and you won't remember it by the time we get to the end of it. So if you've got questions, I want you to be sure and get them marked down, okay? All right, gang, let's see. I think we've got about it. We have the city of Bukavu. Kitadobo has a nucleus of 12 or 15 churches, and it's growing. Mwenga and Kazuza are smaller, but Kazuza may even eventually, maybe not the mother church, but in the outreach area, exceed Kitadobo. And then we have all the way from Kisangani to Bafusindi to Bomili up north, a widespread area with Bomili and Bafusindi and Kisangani being the center and working the roads between. So we've got 250 churches in our whole operation. 2 hospitals that are African run and controlled, about 60 schools, the one orphanage. Now, this is our worst place for the orphanage. This is where we have the most starvation and stuff, you see. And that's why we have the orphanage here. Other missionaries do a little of the feeding and a little of the orphanage work and a little of the medical work, but this is the biggest one. Now, the reason I wanted to show you this particular tape about Howard and June Crowell, it is a very successful representative part of our work, okay? I didn't have some of the others made at the time I made this one, but I wanted you to hear what Howard said at the end of that thing. Howard said that physical problems can't be solved in this world. But spiritual problems have to be dealt with now, because when we die or Jesus comes again, then that opportunity's gone. And the physical problems will never be solved until we get to heaven. Now that made me do some real serious thinking. Why then are we so into the physical problems? Why did Jesus command us to do that? Why did he role model it for us? Now, we shared a little of that with you this morning, but let me give you 3 real good reasons. After I studied it, I had to think about it. Number 1, physical ministries give us spiritual opportunities. Let's suppose that I've got this couple over there. I'm going to use you guys, okay? And she became a Christian, and the kids are Christian, and they're attending. And I've got this guy who's a heathen and a drunk and, you know, the whole round, all right? And I've been working with him for 2 or 3 years to try to get him involved. And I don't make any headway. Now he stands before me with a little baby in his hands, having just buried his wife who died at childbirth. Now what are we going to do with this guy? Well, you cotton-picking heathen, I've been trying to tell you for years, you know, and then last week, instead of buying that watch, if you'd got your wife some medicine. How far am I going with that, gang? I'm not getting anywhere with that. But I take that baby from his arms. Now remember, he has no hope because he can't buy any medicine, he can't buy any powdered milk. That baby can't live. And I put that baby in the arms of one of those African gals in the orphanage or the missionaries there, and in 6 weeks or 2 months he comes back, and that baby's laughing. Now can I talk to him about the love of God? You see the difference? You cannot talk to hungry people about the love of God without feeding them. It's impossible. Your return is so little that you just as well not waste your time. Now, the second thing then is this. When we understand the fullness of the Scripture, and when we go into a lot more detail than I went into this morning, every Christian is to be involved in doing good works in ministry. There are people who attend this church who will disclaim the fact that they can do any spiritual ministries. They can't lead, you don't want me to lead your singing. You know, they can't play the piano. They don't want to pray at the table. They don't even want to carry the emblems or teach a Sunday school class. So what we do is we relegate them to positions of no importance in the congregation. See? Now listen, physical ministries gives every man, woman, and child equal opportunity to be important as the man that stands behind the pulpit. Because we're doing things. Cleaning eave troughs for old folks that can't climb the ladder anymore. Doing something with the soup kitchen. Fixing a tire for somebody that's got a problem. Mending somebody's roof. Fixing a fence. Painting houses for people that can't afford it anymore. Do you see what I'm saying? Physical ministries gives everybody in the church a chance to be worthwhile. That's important to me. Then thirdly, remember what I said about these kids? Gang, listen to me. When we get involved in physical ministries, we can teach these kids by experience that Jesus loves all the little children in the world. But as long as you only teach them words, how will they ever know in their heart? See, when they cease to believe you and start to form opinions of their own, how are they going to have that testimony that that's true? If we haven't ever led them to help us do something for others. Physical ministries has got my 5-year-old and my 12-year-old involved. My 12-year-old gets upset when my wife packs medicine and she don't know it. See, we get a lot of sample bottles of medicine. You get 2 pills in a bottle that big. You don't send all that to Africa. You dump 20 bottles together. And if my Amy don't get to do that, she gets a little upset with her grandma. See? Because she's involved. And that's what we got to do. We load these shipping containers. They're 8 feet wide, 8 feet tall, 20 feet long. When you put all of those boxes in there, there's cracks and crevices, and you're putting a motorcycle in or a sawmill or whatever you're putting in there, nothing fits good. I can't afford to send used clothes to Zaire. Because if you send used clothes, you got to get them fumigated and baled and inspected. But I send an awful lot of packing in those containers. We take these little broomsticks and shove every crack full. You know what? My grandkids and their friends want to do. You know how much trouble it is to stop every 2 or 3 hours. You got 6 volunteers, and you stop every 2 or 3 hours and do 2 hours today and 2 hours tomorrow so you can let the kids get in there and stuff clothes. You know how much trouble it is to go get a grandkid out of jail when he starts smoking pot? I think we got a little better choice, gang. I begged a group of senior citizens. Listen to this, senior citizen man. I begged a group of senior citizens who made and sold every year $800 to $1,200 worth of peanut brittle at a bazaar that they all gave away to missions. And I begged them to get their 8 and 9 and 10-year-old granddaughters in there to help them. They said, you know how much mess them kids make. You know how much trouble we got with our kids that we're not doing those things? Every one of you, as you do your ministry, ought to have somebody alongside. Gang, listen to me. I used to say we've got to have servants and tithers before junior high school. That ain't soon enough anymore. We need servants and stewards to make that out of these kids before sports and before Nintendo. And gang, you got to start when you're 2, 3, 4 years old. That's what missions can do for you. You see, that's important to me. Very quickly, I need to show this young man here, the modern day Kinshasa, since he's been there and worked there for a while in the 70s. September the 22nd, we had a political revolt in our country. Our president had been promising elections, multiple party, for over a year. And the multiple parties formed, and he thought if we can just get 8 or 10 parties to run, guess what? Nobody will win, and I can come back and save the country. Well, they kind of got together, and he was going to get beat. So he never had elections. So after about a year, he said, okay, boys, you all come to town, let's talk. We'll have a meeting. Well, they all come to town, sat around there for a couple of months, and he never had any meeting because it was obvious he was outnumbered. Then, because he had not paid his soldiers for 3 months, they revolted because they were hungry. And all the political people said, aha, he's at his weakest moment, we'll take him now. And they called for the students and the teachers and the soldiers and the general population to riot and trash that country. And they did. Our capital city's something like 3 million people, if I'm not mistaken. It would be like an area, though, of a couple 100,000 people here in terms of industry and business. Suppose that Tuesday morning, you hear that this happened in Wilmington. And Tuesday morning, you drove into Wilmington, and there was absolutely nothing left in any store. Not even light fixtures. That's what you're going to see. What happened in Kinshasa, Zaire, in 3 days. Not for personal gain, but to put pressure on a president. Now you say, does that happen all over Africa? Yeah, it does. It also happened in the Soviet Union, didn't it, recently, in the state of Georgia? It also happened here, at least in Chicago and Detroit in 1968, did it not? Okay, now this is just mob rule and violence. And I just want you to see, the first part of this is not narrated, okay? Now, what is narrated is not our mission. It's missionary Indian film this video and send it to us. African Christian Mission evacuated with all other missionaries at the end of September. We kept our people in the neighboring country of Rwanda and Burundi for about 2 weeks. We're very, very fortunate that one of our counselors, Barb Curry from the Lincoln Christian Church, one of our trustees, was there. She's one of the best trauma counselors in the world. We were grateful to God for her presence at that time. She was scheduled to leave, but she called the Lincoln Christian Church and asked them if she could stay another week to counsel with our people, and she did. We brought almost all of our missionaries home, leaving 4 families and 2 singles over there, living in the foreign country or neighboring country, driving back and forth, which was really only 3 miles, so it was no problem. And then it got to the point where it was safe to move back into Bukavu, and we moved them back in December. And then our missionaries started going back in January. We still got 3 families home doing counseling because of the mental problems out of this situation. Physical problems and dangers are basically not there. Nobody is targeting Americans, and nobody is targeting missionaries. Now, I have 2 grandchildren over there, and my son and daughter-in-law, but I had no anxieties for their safety through the whole thing. See, God does protect. And the truth of the matter is, sometimes you need to be there, even if there is a little bit of danger involved. If God is calling you there, that's where you need to be. Our missionaries feel that way, and they can't help it. They feel like they need to be there. We met with 30 different missions in Chicago about 6 weeks ago, and everybody's going back. The African church lost everything economically. We've had 1,000% inflation in the last 6 months. That means if somebody had $10 saved 6 months ago, they got a dime left. There's 1,000 Zaires in that stack. 6 weeks ago, it was worth a penny and a half. It's less than that now. Now, I don't want to play on this thing and on your emotion to leave you with a lot of guilt about it. But I want to tell you this. They had to lose everything anyway if we're going to change presidents. Because when you change governments in a third world country, the new government just prints new money with new colors and a picture of the new guy on it. And they don't trade in the old stuff. Okay? That's the way it happens. So the losses are there. But we need to go back and encourage the people. And I'm going to leave on March the 11th to do just that. To go back over there and be an encouragement for the Zaire people and to help reestablish the young missionary families. Ron Butler is the only gray-headed fellow we got over. Well, my son's gray-headed, but he's young. But Ron Butler's the only guy who's been out there a number of years, and he can't help all of these kids get going again. Besides, he's got his own ministry to rebuild. And so I'm going to go back for 4 months and help do that. And encourage the Zaire church in the process. Now, I don't mind coming here and teaching you a lot about stewardship. I've always felt bad about pointing my finger at anybody and say, I need your money. But I do want to share with you the opportunity that could be yours if you decide you want to get involved. What you do with your money is between you and the Holy Spirit, and that's where you need to deal with whether or not you pick up on the challenge I'm going to offer you. I want to, in the spirit of James 2, take something with me when I go back. I can't hardly just go over there and say, boy, I hope you get a good president this next time and make it. That's not going to be enough. On the other hand, I can't feed all those people. Matter of fact, I don't want a feeding program. But I'd like to take several hundred or $1,000s with me. So I could go and spend $25 here and $40 there and $50 somewhere else. For the purpose of putting preachers' wives and elders' wives and good Christian women back in the market. See, with inflation, they lost everything. If they were selling rice or selling peanuts or selling beans or selling palm oil, they're not in business anymore. They got to have a new start. And I'd like to help jumpstart them. Now, inflation will get them again in 4 or 5 months. But at least for 4 or 5 months, they've done their own thing. The song. Guard each man's dignity, protect each man's pride. That's what I'm talking about, gang. Protecting their dignity and their pride so that they can do for themselves. Welfare doesn't work very long. But I'm asking churches and Sunday school classes and individuals to tie on with me in a special way for about 6 months. And if you send anything to African Christian Mission and you want it used this way, just write in the bottom, James 2. But remember, it's not just to help them, but it's also to increase our personal faith. That's what James 2 is really talking about. It's to get us involved in such a way that we as individuals grow. Now that's kind of my lecture for tonight. Let's take a few minutes if you've got special questions that you'd like to ask, and I'll try to answer them. We'll try not to hold on here too long, and then we'll turn everybody loose. And if you want to ask individual questions, then you can do that afterward. But anybody got questions you'd like to ask right here before we dismiss? Yes.
I was looking at the pictures in there, and I know hunger is a big problem in Africa, and you mentioned protein deficiency. Yeah, I was looking, it looks like a pretty fertile area. What is the...
Most of the country is fertile except those mountain ranges. Those mountain ranges are wore out, is what it boils down to. And that's why we have so much protein deficiency and feeding problems right there. If we had storage and transportation, we wouldn't have any food problems. But you see, if, for instance, beans or rice or peanuts are grown more than 200 miles away, then you can't afford to buy it by the time I get them to you on $4 fuel, $4, $5, $6 diesel fuel. Time I transport them 200 miles, they're out of price, you see. So what it boils down to is almost all of the food needs to be grown in local areas. I'm sorry to have to tell you that when I went to Zaire, the 3 major crops were coffee, tea, and quinine. You know why, don't you? Make money. Not 1 ounce of food value. The quinine market got overstocked. I said, hallelujah, they're going to quit planting quinquina. Maybe we'll get potatoes or beets or rice or carrots, you know. You know what we got? Tobacco. You see, materialism isn't just an exclusive nature of richer people. Everybody's tapped into it. But we could do better if we had transportation. You know, does that help you understand a little? It's just pockets of areas. We can get beans and peanuts and rice in certain places. You know, and that's why I think I can put people back in the market and help them a lot better than trying to feed them. Other questions? The capital city of Kinshasa, where the river is and everything that you saw, they can't grow anything over there. They have to transport a lot of stuff in. Matter of fact, they air freight a lot of food into that city. It's just a piece of sand, you know, around the river. Yeah.
What about livestock?
There's livestock over there, but the answer is not big livestock. First of all, you don't grain feed any animals. You don't grain feed animals in a country where people are starving to death. So every animal is a scavenger. Hogs are better than cattle, for instance, because they don't use up as much ground that you could be growing vegetables on. The best is chickens and rabbits and goats. And so that's where we're really working to get chickens and rabbits and goat projects started so that we can get the protein thing going that way. Because rabbits eat basically just grass and not very much of it. And you can do pretty good with that. Not only that, they produce pretty fast. They're about the only thing that can keep up with the Zaire people when it comes to production. Other questions? That'll give you an idea if you got a silly question. I've got a lot of silly answers. Yeah. We have 20 families and 5 singles total. Well, the area, if you put it all in one lump sum, would be an area about the state of Illinois if you just locked it into an area. You know. But we're touching several different areas. And see, in 1978 when I went, I was the 7th missionary family, okay? I was 7th in seniority. 3 of those older families are now gone. I'm 4th in seniority now. But now we're 20 families. So you got to see that we're relatively new and we're branching out more and more all the time. Yes.
The cows were literally a 3-generation family. Are there many 3-generation families?
We're getting there. We have now, let's see, Butlers don't actually have any kids in Zaire, but they got a daughter in South Africa. I have children over there. Larry Doggett has children on the field. The Crowds have children on the field. And, of course, their grandchildren are there. That's the 3rd generation. We have 2nd-generation missionaries there, which really, by the way, changed the outlook of the African church. The kids came back. That made a difference in their confidence level. See, when I went over there and built the first permanent church building, it made a major difference in the Africans because that's the first thing that we ever gave them we couldn't take away when we left. It was theirs. It was, it's going to stay there. And it was something that was permanent. And I'll tell you what, it changed their attitude.
Are the children educated there?
It's growing. You mean our children? Oh, no, we educate them over there. Boarding schools and home study. As a matter of fact, if you look at that little yellow brochure, I don't know who you are, but we're looking for teachers. What? 5 years? Is that a promise? Okay. No, we do it over there. We have to. Let me just say something. Okay, go ahead.
The Riley film, was that in connection with Stanleyville and Shawnee, or was that earlier? Were they earlier?
Well, that was years ago when Phyllis Ryan was killed.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. That was Stanleyville.
Okay.
But Stanleyville was brand new since the time you're talking about until now. That was September 22, this year. That was this year. Just this, 5 months ago.
You know what I was thinking about, because we were around the Carolyn
Yeah.
and all that
Trouble they had to have.
war, and
Yeah.
I guess, focused on that.
Yeah. Go ahead.
You mentioned that the instruments were used by families.
Yeah.
And especially indicating there's no electricity, even in compounds or...
Okay. In some of our compounds in the city, we have electricity, okay? In most of our compounds, we're using solar. Solar works a lot better. Once you've bought it, it's pretty cheap to operate. Not only that, solar refrigeration is better than kerosene refrigeration. And when you live back in the bush, it's cheaper to truck in. That panel weighs about 5 pounds. That can of kerosene weighs about 25 pounds. When you're paying the airplane 70 or 80 cents a pound to bring it to you, it's cheaper to bring in a solar panel. Yeah, sure does. Solar has changed our nation. Now you saw the video stuff or the movie stuff. That's all generator operated. Okay? I need to tell you this. Standard operating equipment, even for missionaries going into the bush today, is a generator, a 12-inch television, and a video player. It's for our kids. You see, I've got that grandson here, that tough one. I have not and will never buy him, kids don't listen to this, anything that says Ninja Turtle. On the other hand, I sent a Ninja Turtle video to Zaire. Now, why did I do that? Because I don't want my grandson to come home at the age of 6 and be the only kid starting in the 1st grade that don't know what a Ninja Turtle is. Does that make sense to you? We need to keep our children at least current on what's happening in America. Because one of the major problems we're facing with all missionaries coming from all parts of the world is how to re-enter their children into this society. Did you have a question, hon?
Do they baptize people down there?
Yes, they do. Yes, regularly. Okay? Good question. I appreciate that. Gang, you've been fun. And I could stay here and answer your questions and enjoy you a lot. And I have enjoyed you. You guys got some good things going here. I've looked at the East Coast a little bit. And I don't want to swell your heads, but you're at least in the top 10 churches on the East Coast as far as what's been done in the new area with the new work. You know, you might even be a lot higher up than that, but I just don't want to, make you big-headed or anything. But I really do appreciate the way that you've received me this weekend, the way you've taken my teaching. I'm dead serious. I think God is revitalizing missions in the American church to get us out of the trap that Satan has us in by manipulating our society. And I think we got to. I think we got to use it. I think we got to use missions as a tool. This money that I have here, I showed some of you this. That's $1.50. Today, our mission is big enough that we can get 1 million of these a day out of the bank in Zaire. That's $16. So we do have some problems you need to be praying about. I got 2 prayer requests, and I'm going to let you go. One, in addition to money to help the people over there, I got to have something to tell them. In the next 2 or 3 weeks, I've got to write a message in Swahili. But it's got to be the right message. What am I going to tell? I don't really, at this point, know yet. Something's beginning to formulate a little bit. I don't know whether it's the right message or not. About God is the only one you can depend on. And God's people are the only ones you can depend on. Really, for the long haul. But I need a message. And I need you praying about that. Then my daughter-in-law, when you look out there on that one board in that upper left-hand corner, my son's the coordinator, and I was going to be there with them, and they were going to leave in June, and I was coming back in July. But Julie's pregnant again. Julie's been pregnant 7 or 8 times, and we only have 2 grandchildren from her. Fortunately, she always loses them early, but she's got some pretty serious problems. Her and Jason will be coming back to Canada, where that's her home, and they have a good medical program up there for them. And Jason's doctor was there, and so she's coming back on the 28th or the 29th of February. Mike is staying because Sarah needs to finish school in April. So he's going to try to stay as long as things are okay here until then. They've asked me to come over a week early just so I have more time with him, because he's kind of coordinating the work over there. Not because he's my son, but because that's the job the missionaries gave him. And they just want me to have some more time with him. So I need your prayers for the message. And I need your prayers for Mike and Julie and the kids. I really want you praying for Julie because she has a real emotional problem with this. If she loses this baby, she's probably going to have to get everything taken out. And that's going to be difficult, gang. You women know that more than we men do. So I'd appreciate it if in the next couple of months you'd keep Julie in your prayers a lot. And again, thank you for the time that I've had to share with you. And I think if you'll let me, we'll come back and do it again.